friends, and welcome to the Out of OCD podcast, your source for understanding and managing obsessive-compulsive disorder. This podcast explores the realities of OCD, personal stories, treatment approaches, and tips for breaking free from those often debilitating intrusive thoughts and compulsive behaviors. I'm your host, Dr. Toy Hirschman, not a therapist, but someone who has also lived with severe OCD and co-occurring disorders. Please join me for real stories, pro tips, and a sometimes humorous look at busting through OCD. Let's get started kicking OCD out of our lives for good. Hi friends, Toy here. Welcome to another podcast / YouTube episode of the Out of OCD podcast or YouTube channel. I want to talk to you today about a really interesting topic to me, and that is how we hide, how we cover up our OCD. I thought about this. I was listening to a Hidden Brain podcast, and I love that podcast. And they were talking about how we cover up our personalities. And this happens in all walks. Like, you don't have to have OCD. You've probably been at work, and you're expected to act a certain way at work. And that's fine. And, you know, when you get into some of the unhealthy ways of covering up, that's what that podcast is about. But it made me think about why and how we as OCDers cover up our pain. And it makes perfect sense why we do, right? I mean, it makes perfect sense. We are ashamed and we feel guilty and we don't know how to handle the emotions that come up with these thoughts that are swirling in our brains. And so we cover them up. But I just want to talk to you today about why that's not always the best thing. And a little bit, if you're not sure how to share your story, a little bit of how to kind of start inching your way towards opening up to people, which can really help you help yourself, first and foremost, most important, advocate, be a help for yourself, but even also help other people that might be struggling and don't even know. You'd be surprised at how many people don't know what the right treatment is, even today. Like 30 plus years ago when I found out I had OCD, and it took me 30 years to get better, guys. I don't want that for anybody, but those resources weren't even available. So now they are, but there's still so few therapists that really understand OCD. We're getting more and more peer specialists and other people that can help, thanks to like the International OCD Foundation and others. So anyway, find the right resources. Okay, why people hide OCD? Well, if you have OCD and you've been hiding it, you're like, duh, of course. Like, you don't want people to see that. It's embarrassing. And you know, we are like cloak and dagger level detectives or undercover people when we have OCD, because we've been hiding so much of our personality from people for so long that it's almost like we're completely two people. You know, I have a repetitive type of OCD where I will like have a bad thought that's swirling around and I will have to repeat the thing I was just doing. So it's not one specific repetitive thing, it's whatever I'm doing. You know, walking out of a room, I got to go back in. And then I do a little prayer chant thing along with it for good measure. Who knows? It's morphed over the years, as all of you know how OCD does. But so many times, like in front of people I've worked with, in social situations, I've been like, oops, I dropped my pen. and I run back into the room and do my... it's kind of wild, and I've been caught a few times and I have to explain it, and I even caught myself on camera one time, and that was a freaky deaky thing to see. So yeah, that's hard to do. I was always working and being a mom and doing all of these things, like with, again, you know, 90% of my brain tied behind my back, because it was, the thoughts were swirling, the compulsions were happening. And it took me so long just to get things done. And so, of course, I tried to mask it until I couldn't. And then I did find therapy, and I started sharing just little bits, just little nuggets of my story to people that I knew would be kind. And even well-meaning good friends, many of them, and doctors too, kind of dismissed it and like, oh yeah, I'm a little OCD, or oh yeah, you know, I think, you know, I'm organized, to something to that effect. You know what I mean? You've been there. And you have to read the room at that point. You have to read the room and know if this person is going to be receptive to you saying, hey, yeah, it's actually not that. Would you mind if I share? my story or a little bit of my story. And if it's a well-meaning friend, and many times for me it was, they make this flippant response, but then I said, well, actually, can I share something else with you? And I explain, and I've had several people say something like, oh, wow, I had no idea that you were dealing with that. That has to be really hard. And so you kind of have to read the room, because sometimes you'll share, hey, somebody might see you doing a compulsion and you'll be like, yeah, I have OCD. And that person might kind of be like, oh, okay. Or that person might be a better friend or a closer relative or someone that is like, oh, that's OCD. Or you read the room. If somebody's going to be receptive to your story, and you just can't shove that stuff down people's throats. You really can't. So many times somebody has said something to me and I've just wanted to bonk them on the head, but you can't. You're not going to be able to just tell your story and everyone's going to be receptive. They just aren't. But little by little, you start to share more and more, and you find that you have a lot of people in your corner. And in fact, again, you're advocating for yourself by doing this, because you're telling people what's going on with you, and it's going to help you get better treatment. I know for me, I was really scared to tell a physician, to tell my general practitioner. I've known since I was 12 years old that I had OCD. It wasn't until I was 40 that it got so crushingly bad that I couldn't move through my day. I couldn't get dressed. I couldn't, do what I needed to do for my kids. And it was in that time that I finally got the guts to go really seek out, like get on waiting lists for the right treatment, all of that stuff. I don't want anyone else to deal with that. And that is why it's so important, to start sharing where you can. I wouldn't recommend going to your general practitioner and just like word vomiting all of your thoughts. You don't have to share your thoughts. And trust me, the thoughts that are swirling around in your head that make you do compulsions are probably very similar to other people's thoughts that don't have OCD, because they just think like, oh, weird, hey brain, that was weird, why'd you send me that one? And they move on. But for you and me, we can't always do that. So you don't need to tell them. You don't need to engage and tell your physician, your therapist that you trust, sure. But your therapist will lead you through that journey. Your peer support specialist, or whoever you found that's really helping you, that person can help you with that. But other people, if you're seeing a general practitioner because you're working on meds, they don't need to know the actual thoughts. And most people don't. You have OCD. Whatever you're thinking that's triggering your OCD is irrelevant. It's not irrelevant to you. I'm not being flippant about that. It is absolutely relevant to you. But OCD mechanism, the mechanism is the same. So it's really just thoughts, and everybody has them. It was hard for me to understand that. I'm like, nobody has the same ones I have because mine are crazy. But they do. And hiding it doesn't help. I recently was so lucky and fortunate to be able to do a workshop session at the International OCD Foundation Kids Camp. And so I was giving a similar message that I am right now to a group of middle school students. And guys, I can't even tell you. First of all, that blessed my whole month working with those kids. But what was really, really heartbreaking was that I asked them, what are some of the things people have said when you share about OCD? And the ignorant, ridiculous things that people have said to these amazing, brilliant young adults kind of blew my mind. I've experienced it, but mostly as an adult, because I never shared anything when I was their age. And they were just so brave to share, and then to still get the same ignorant responses back that even adults do. So that is why I wanted to share this. You advocate for you. If you read the room and you think someone's going to be a big jerk about your sharing, they don't need to know. I've been in stores where I've put stuff back on the shelf multiple times, and I see people looking at me funny, and I kind of look and I'm like, I have OCD. And then they smile and they give me a face. Normally, sometimes people are just like, okay. You just got to know. But yeah, so please do find someone, if you haven't, to share your OCD story with, that will be kind, that can be a support system for you. And again, you don't need to share everything, but I just wanted to give you that message because I love you. I don't know who you are out there, but I love you and I know what you're going through. So thanks for watching or listening, and have an amazing day. Bye.